is a series by Country Cottage Needleworks. All the floss fabric, everything I need for this fabric, I have bought through a store called Patchwork Rabbit. They have a nice pattern of the month that you can do. It's different. They have different series where you can subscribe and get 1 to 3 patterns each month, and you can also then decide if you want the fabric, the DMC, the specialty floss, the buttons, like stuff like that in the subscription. So I just ordered everything. I think the price is a really good price, so I just went for it. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. This is where we are right now. So we still have a pretty decent way to go. I hope my phone will keep cool, not keep calm, but keep cool. Because last episode I had to quickly end off the episode because my phone was starting to get way too hot. It's really hot here today, even though the sun isn't up right now. We are almost at 30 degrees Celsius, so it's hot, and that makes it so the phone is struggling with me filming, having the light on, and charging as I'm filming, because the battery dies down too fast if I'm not charging while I am filming. So let's get into stitching, shall we? Last time I did a good amount of snowflakes. I showed you different methods to start and end your floss. Especially the ones that has been useful to me. So let's see. Let's do some more stitching. So as I said, it's hot here today. You're seeing this remember, you're seeing this in the future. I pre-record my video, so when I'm talking about it's hot here today, it's a while back from when you are watching. And if you're not watching it when it is released, it's even further into the future. So yeah. Sorry. The stand was... I had tightened the lever on my Lowry stand, but it wasn't tight enough, so my frame started to get pushed away when I started to stitch. Good news is that we are in the process of starting to move my son from the first floor to the 3rd floor. And the plan has always been, when that happens, is that I'm going to get a hobby room on the 1st floor. And that means I will have a much quieter place to sit and stitch, because right now I'm sitting in the living room. And that's usually always a noisy place. So it's only on special times of the day where I can film be on Zoom with virtual stitchers. So yeah. Now, when that is done, I will be able to much more record filming, and so yeah, hopefully everything will get back in routine, and maybe even, if I'm lucky, get to do even more than normal filming and making videos, because I do love to make the videos, and I do love the interaction we have. And I just started with the wrong type of starts because I don't really want to pin stitch right here because it's a single stitch, but it looks like this one isn't going anywhere, so we just have to roll with it. Well, now you can see how you can do pin stitching twice if you're doing a single stitch in the middle of nowhere. So I did the first one, and then I did it from top and bottom. So this time I'm going to do it from the sides, the other side first, because or else the leg will look weird, the top leg of the stitch. Like, it's really tight doing the last leg of the pin stitch when you're doing it twice. Okay, and now, since it's so tight, I usually afterwards go and try and jiggle a little bit on the two legs. That makes the stitch just so it plumps up a little bit and looks okay. So that's how you do that. It's easier if you have a very sharp needle to do that. So if you want to do that, it's highly recommended to have very sharp needle, which I don't have. This is actually a very blunt needle. So even though I have a new method that I can start with, I tend to always just do the pin stitch because I'm so used to it. So even though I'm not supposed to use it, I still do. And what you heard there was my scissors falling down. I hope that you all are doing well. And feel free to tell me what you're stitching on in the comments below, and also what section of the pattern you're stitching. Because if you tell me what pattern you're stitching on, I usually go and look it up, and then I go, and then it's nice to see what section you're on stitching. Because I do like to follow other people's progress. Because if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be doing floss tube myself, because then I wouldn't believe other people would like to see. But because I know I like to see other people's progress, I'm assuming that it's not just me, and that there are people out there that would like to see my progress as well. And the same can be said about this series. I wouldn't have started to do it if it wasn't something that I really wanted to see myself. Sorry, my hand is gonna get away. It's not always easy to try and stitch so you can see all the time. Come on, go down. There. Think the I have no clue what happened with this beginning, but it's not acting the way it's supposed to be. So I think somewhere along the way I must have, I don't know. Try again. Go down. Also, now I'm off. I need to count. Okay. So that's this top, left. This is where the stitch is going. Go down, go up. This is also one of the reasons I don't use this method too much, because I tend to sometimes struggle to get the loop underneath every time. Like with the loop method where you fold the strand, like I always go down the opposite way. But if I do that here, it will double the amount of floss on the bottom leg. And if it's just one extra strand, like when I'm doing 1/1, that's fine. But when it goes from 2 strands to 4 strands, that tends to be very bulky and visible. So I don't really want to do that. So, but it is a good method. It's just, I think I'm not doing it enough, that I have the technique really well. What is happening? Like something is just wrong with this stitch. Taking it out. So yeah, as I said, sometimes it gives me issues. I think it's because I'm just not have done it enough, that I have the technique really in. So doing it a little bit more would be good, so I get some more practice. My biggest issue with that is it has become second nature to me to just start doing the pin stitch when I have a floss in hand, floss and needle, and need to start stitching. And nothing is behaving today. I think it's because everything is so warm. So it won't behave the way it will. Try to move the chairs so your view would be moved, but it just keeps being stuck. There. So warm, it's like the feet of the chair is like sticking to the floor much easier, so I kind of had to lift the feet of the chair and then move it. Oh, it's weird. Okay, let's try this again. And this time I'm gonna do it the way I have often done it, is instead of going down in number 4, I go down the top of the stitch next to it. So kind of like have a little bit more room. And that way I can also try and pin the floss when I'm going down this hole again, because here you can see, can you, that there is a floss, the floss is right behind there. It's a little bit hard to see since it's white. So that's what I have been starting to do lately, because it kind of, if this loop method thingy isn't working as well as it should, usually me pin stitching once does. So. And now we have to make a pin stitch under that stitch. You can see the holes are starting to become a tiny bit bigger of all the views. Okay, that seemed to work a lot better. The phone is starting to get hot again. So let's see how long it will last, because I really need to film today. I don't have a chance in a long time if I don't get it done today. One more of these. I purposely pulled it through there because the loop started to, the floss started to make 2 separate loops instead of going down like one. That is surely going to make problems. I am sure of that. Is it me going down the wrong hole? Yes, it is. Then pinning. don't know if you feel like this is boring doing these single stitches all over, because I tend to become very silent because I need to focus more. So I don't know if you prefer, if I do these kinds of videos, to have like I don't know, maybe have music on instead. Let me know if you have a preference, or if you like just me stitching, talking, and if I go silent, I go silent. Okay, counting a long way. So I am currently, I've started reading a new book. I usually tend to like fantasy and mystery slash cozy mystery, like Agatha Christie, Hercule Poirot, Miss Maple, Maple. And also like the type of Clive Cussler's, his books. I love his books. But right now, I'm in the fantasy genre again, where I read a lot, and it's the author Cassandra Clare. She is the one reading the Mortal Instruments series, which there were made a movie out of the first book. There was also made a Netflix series by this book series, which I hated. It was so bad. Like compared to the books, it's on Netflix. It's called the Shadowhunters. Like, if you like that series, you should definitely read the books, because it's 100 times better. And they have taken some liberties in the series that I don't like. And since I have read the whole series, I only think I watched like the first season on Netflix, and then I couldn't bother with watching anymore because it was so bad. And I know some of the liberties they have taken is going to be an issue in the later books, because some of the liberties they have taken is something that is crucial or should be there when it comes to the story and how they have to do things. So yeah, the series on Netflix didn't give the book series the love it deserves. But she has a lot of other books, which is also good. The movie, it's called City of Bones. I think it's called Shadowhunters City of Bones. But this book series is called The Mortal Instrument. And she also have the Infernal Device, which I haven't read myself, but I know someone that loves the books just as I do. And she says that the books are amazing. And now I'm reading Shades of Gold. And so far I'm loving it. Every one of them is set in the Shadowhunter world. Sorry, I have to sneeze. Okay, I'm back. Now I need to count. Yeah, so the books, they're set in the Shadowhunter worlds, but these books are set in a time period that happens before the Mortal Instruments. And I'm not sure how they compare to the Infernal Device since I haven't read it, but I know the Infernal Device is also a series much earlier than City of Bones or the Mortal Instrument. So yeah, I really love her books, and I love the way she writes. She's one of those authors that can describe something using a few words but still describing a whole lot. So it's not like those long reads of how something is looking, because she only needs a few of those she only needs a few words to describe what many people would use a lot of words to describe. I think that's one of the things that's showing if you're a good author, is that you have a good vocabulary, which makes it so you don't need to use as many words, and also the view you are describing things can sometimes make it so you don't need to use too many words to still be able to make the reader see what you want them to see when reading. Because when I read, like, I have a picture in my mind of how everything is. So the description is important, but if the description is too long, then I usually tend to not being patient enough in my reading to keep the picture alive that the author is trying to describe. So yeah, I really like her way of writing. And the same with Agatha Christie, Clive Cussler. What is the name of the person doing the Dresden Files? I love the Dresden Files. That's about a warlock set in modern day, but not completely our modern day, like say the early 90s, where mobile phones weren't a big thing, like, but it's still close enough that it's relatable to how things look today. So yeah, the Dresden Files. Jim Butcher? Yeah, Jim Butcher. He's good. There is a lot of good authors, and I'm I'm not. Sometimes I feel I don't have enough time to read everything I want. So what I luckily have been starting to do again is to listen to audiobooks while I'm stitching. But that means I'm getting behind on FlossTube again, and I'm not that social on Zoom and with virtual stitchers. So it's just, so yeah, it's like, but right now I'm enjoying reading and listening to books being read for me. But believe me, I also like to read books. Like, read them that I actually sit down and hold the book in my hands and read. I think that's something that I don't, a side of me I haven't shown on FlossTube at all, that I'm a very vivid reader, actually. That's one of the main reasons I loved Belle from Beauty and the Beast when I was little, because the phrase that they sing that she has her nose stuck up in her book, like, that was me. Always. So yeah. And I also like sci-fi, especially sci-fi fantasy books. Those I really like. So yeah, it's but I'm not one of those. I'm very picky when reading books. So I'm like with Magical Stitches, where you were supposed to read historical fiction, and I'm very picky, and I tend to not find historical fiction that I like. There's one of the subgenres is historical fiction, because I found it through Magical School of Stitches. It's Saint Cyr series. What Angel Fears is the first book. Counting again. Yeah, so that's What Angel Fears, or the first book. And I like the book. I like the story in the book, but that's one of the books that is like really slow to get into, I felt. And I think that's my biggest problem with historical fiction. I feel the books are very slow to get into. And sometimes there's stuff they're not explaining that, for me, that isn't like a big history buff, like don't remember, or so when they stop explaining certain aspect because they just assume people know what it is when they have set the date, that's not always the truth. So yeah, I'm complaining about them explaining too much and too little at the same time. But that's at least what I feel with historical fiction. And I have never been a big fan of true stories and stuff like that, even in movies. Like, people are gonna hate me for this, but I have never liked Titanic. Like, that's one of the worst movies in my mind of all time. It's maybe it had to do with the setting where I was watching the movie the first time with my sister, but I just hated that movie so much. I still do to this day. Like, nope. Not a big fan. And as a girl, you apparently aren't allowed to say that. And the reason I say that is because I have actually been yelled at for not liking Titanic. Yep. And the reason was that I was a girl, so I was supposed to love Titanic. It was a disgrace to women that I didn't like Titanic, apparently. But I don't. And I think, looking back now, that the person saying that was a real sexist. And that came from a woman. But apparently I was supposed to like movies like that just because of my gender. And that's one thing that has never been me, is I have never liked the typical chick flicks. Like some of the chick flick I can watch. Sometimes I do like to watch it just because it's funny. But the usually romance and drama it's just not my thing. Like, I like fantasy and action and crime and mystery and thrillers. And to a lot of people's and the stitching community, I don't like horror. So, like, for me, there is a line between a thriller and a horror. And I feel like movies are really bad at dividing those two genres. Like, sometimes they can say, like, oh, this is a thriller. And it's like, nope, that was a horror movie. So, yeah. I'm not... If you're gonna put something in categories, I have never been one of those that like typical girl/women movies. I just don't. So that includes Titanic. But hey, maybe I'm just one of those weird people. Like, I don't like coffee. I don't like movies that are based on true stories. Usually, some of them I do like, but usually I feel they're, I don't know, they're just not that exciting to watch. Like, when I sit down to watch a movie, I sit down to enjoy myself. And that's one of the reasons I don't like horror, because that's just scary. And that's not enjoying myself getting scared. Like, no. But a thriller is, and mysteries are more like you have to think. And I like to think. And I like especially stuff like Dan Brown's books that has been made into movies, like The Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, like those kind of thinking. I don't think you can call it a thriller, but like just to show what type of more intellectual use of your brain having to be done. I think that's one of the main things that divides horror and thriller, is that thriller usually have a logical ending, like, it doesn't need to be a good ending, like it can be a bad ending. But it has a logical ending, like it's not something that is just supernatural and nasty killing stuff and just suddenly going away. Or not going away. It just ends with a bunch of people getting killed and the end. So yeah. Okay, I need a new skein of white. And the new thing I've started to do is I hold one end in my right hand and then I will pull out the floss, all of it. I hope this goes well doing it over the stitching, because usually I use a little bit more space to pull out the floss. Okay, let's see. And then I find the other end with my hand. I put them together and I fold once. And then I'm just pulling those two ends together, holding the ends together and just pulling the floss from the ends until I get to the loop at the other end that I have made. Then I put the loop and the two ends together and I do the same thing over again. So you're folding the floss, and I do that another time until I have 8 strands, because one skein of DMC is 8 meters. So folding it 8 times makes it so I have 1 meter lengths of floss, which is that's not too far off from the size I'm used to doing when I'm doing the loop start. So it's like double, it's not far off the double length of floss I usually use. Like with one strand, I will fold it in half again. So yeah, it's a little bit shorter, but it's a quick way to cut up the floss and get decent lengths to work with. And either I put it around a bobbin or Annie's keeper. I got my hands on a few of the Annie keepers just to try out. Or I just fold it into the bag. Like this is the 7 strands that is left, and that is the one I'm taking from. The one I'm taking from, I'm just wrapping around my fingers and putting it in the floss away bag. And with that, I think it's time to end this video. So, thank you all for watching, coming here, supporting this series. It really means a lot to me. That you do support this. It's a series that isn't like the majority isn't watching it. So I'm always afraid that it's not good enough, but still, as long as people are watching and enjoying and liking it and saying that they like it, I will keep doing it. So, but it can be hard because like making these videos takes a lot of time, and I'm always afraid that people don't like them. Because if people don't like them, I can instead use my time to do something else. Like, it's not that I'm having too much time in my life, but I do enjoy making these videos. So as long as there is people watching and liking this, I will keep doing them. So with that, I'm gonna say goodbye. Hold down my phone because it's burning again, and hopefully you'll be able to make one more video before I have to quit for today. So of course you are watching this in the future, so the next episode you will see will be out next Friday. When you will see it, I don't know, that's up to you. But next Friday it will be out and ready for you to view if you want. So thank you all so much for the support, and I will see you